This is an astonishing clip you need to see. This is Mohammad Massad, a former Arab Palestinian terrorist, jihadist, who transformed to become a great supporter of Israel and denouncer of terrorism. And here he is saying that Israel must retake control and possession and ownership of Gaza, because he says the worst thing that happens is when the Jewish people evacuate and it's the Arabs who are left in control. The leadership ends up becoming extreme, it's Islamist, it's violent, and it ends up hurting his people just as much as it does the Israelis and Jews. Have a watch of what he says, because it's remarkable to see this coming from him.
צריך לשלוט בעזה. אין שליטה בעזה. כל השליטה הביטחונית, אם היא תשתחרר מהישראלים, אז אנחנו נקבל מוות יותר ויותר. אז ישראל צריכה לשלוט? ישראל חייבת לשלוט שם. אני מבקש, יש לי משפחה עצומה שם, ויש לי אנשים, אני אוהב אותם כמו הילדים שלי, וכמו נמצאים שם. אני מבקש, בבקשה, אסור לתת לפלסטינים, העמליקים, הנאצים האלו, אסור לתת להם שליטה ביטחונית, כי כל עוד אתה ניתן להם שליטה ביטחונית, הם כובשים קודם כל את העם שלהם, מתעוללים בעם שלהם. אתם ראיתם ב7 באוקטובר, ב-2007, שחמאס התחילו להרוג את הערבים כדי לתפוס את השלטון. אז אתה אומר, רגע, אוקיי, אתה בעד לגרש אגב את הפלסטינים מרצועת עזה? אני מההתחלה אמרתי, עד סיני. סיני, אללה ברא אותה, אזור סיני, אללה ברא אותה, לענש. לגרש אותם לסיני? להשאיר אותם 40 שנה שם, עד שיתחלף את הדור הנאצי הזה. זה פסיקה, לא אני קובע אותה. ולא ידידיה מאיר, ולא את אף אחד. אללה, הקדוש ברוך הוא, קבע אותה מהשמיים. כל אומה, כל עם, עושה עוול, כופר באללה, הורג אנשים, מסכן חיים. מי צריך לשלוט בעזה?
So this is a remarkable clip where, and I want to tell you a bit more about Mohammad Massad's background, okay? But he is recognizing that you have a society in Gaza that by and large, based on polling, based on evidence, based on everything we're seeing coming out of Gaza, is one that is dramatically in support of the October 7th genocide. It's a modern-day Nazi society. Of course there are innocents. Of course there are people who are brainwashed. Of course there are people who may well, with the right education, with the right reversing of their indoctrination, could be changed. But the first duty of a nation is to protect themselves from a threat, not to de-radicalize an enemy society. And the most important thing that Israel has to do is to protect her own people. And to have an enemy people on your doorstep that are plotting every day and teaching their kids every day to destroy you is unacceptable for any nation to tolerate that. And so the moral solution has to be strength, peace through strength, and being strong and saying that we're not going to tolerate this. The Palestinian cause of nationalism, according to the Hamas leaders themselves and other PLO leaders and all the people that created it, was never really about a genuine nationalism. It's about wanting to get rid of the Jewish people state. And so this experiment that we've tried has got to change. Now, whatever the strong and bold solutions are, whether it's what Mohammed's proposed or what other people may propose, the key point is that the weakness, the maintaining of the status quo, allows the problem to fester. And it's only through strength and courage and bold solutions that the problem's actually going to be able to be dealt with. We've seen that when Arabs are exposed to Jewish people, it seems that in Israel at least, Israeli Arabs are by and large cooperative and peaceful. And so this shows us that if number one, the Palestinian national cause is a lie anyway. Number two, Israel's claim to Gaza is incredibly strong given their biblical and historical connection to the land. And C, the Arabs fare better under Israeli control than they do in any other Arab country, and certainly then under Hamas. And by the way, even if that were to mean, let's just say for argument's sake, that the Arabs living there didn't share every single similar democratic right to those living in Israel, they would still have far better quality of life if it became part of Israel than they would in the rest of living in the rest of the Arab world. And so clearly there's going to need to be bold solutions. And I really hope that Israel's going to start to become clearer in expressing what it is that their plan is going to be for after the war with Hamas is over. We need to see a bit more of a long-term vision here. And I want to tell you a bit more about this guy, Mohammad Massad, because this should really give us some cause for hope, really. This is an article that was done in the Jerusalem Post, which is about Massad. This is a picture of him when he was a Black Panther terrorist. And I want to read to you what it says about him, because it's fascinating. It asks, how does one go from being a rock-throwing child and a Kalashnikov-toting adolescent to being a voice for peace and negotiation in adulthood? Mohammad Massad, 46, made such a journey from Jenin to Haifa, now a voice of sanity asking the world to recognize the true oppressors of the Palestinians. In 1975, Mohammad Massad was born in a village about 5 kilometers from Jenin. This was 1 year after the PLO was recognized as the official representative of the Palestinian people, and only 8 years after Israel won control of Judea and Samaria. The humiliation of defeat and their sense of the injustice of Israeli control could only be overcome by fighting back against the Jewish enemy. This was the reality into which Muhammad was born, and by the time he was 7 years old, he was throwing rocks at Israeli soldiers. In contrast with the general sense of despair around him, he describes a home environment characterized by dignity, love, and respect. Muhammad attributes his self-confidence and inner strength to his father, grandfather, a cousin, and a male neighbor. A recurring theme when talking about the men who influenced him is the way he was treated with respect and how they commanded the respect of others. I asked Muhammad about his mother. She has a big heart and so much love, he replied. She made us all feel important, all of us equally loved by her, and she made sure we all take care of each other. Muhammad remembers how when he was 6 years old, Nasser Kamel, a 25-year-old former security prisoner, a member of the PLO, assembled young children in the neighborhood. He'd take care of us and play all kinds of games with us. He taught us songs about Israel, and I remember in particular a song of love toward Yasser Arafat. Nasser wanted us to keep from playing in the street and getting hit by a car. He kept us from doing crazy things, but we were living in the middle of crazy. Muhammad was in 2nd grade when the first demonstrators took place, and he recalls having taken part in them. I remember my mother's words. She told my father when he grows up, we'll need a lot of money to pay for his lawyers. And this was said with pride. Kamil was arrested by Israel, and Muhammad considered it his duty to carry on with his activities. From age 13, another former security prisoner had an impact on him. This time it was a cousin, one who was and still is a leader in Fatah. At the beginning of the first Intifada, I asked him to let me in on operations, the most difficult operations. He was wanted by the IDF and had status in the whole region. The fact that he was my relative gave me status as well. I wanted to be like him. Muhammad was a founding member of the Jenin branch of the Black Panthers. They threw Molotov cocktails and grenades at IDF vehicles and burned tires. Bomb maker Yahya Ayash, known as the Engineer, invited them to join in with Izzuddin al-Qassam Brigade's suicide attacks. Massad and his peers declined, saying that they are willing to risk death to achieve their goals, but they are hoping to live. In 1991, at the age of 16 and a half, Muhammad and 4 members of the Panthers pulled over an Israeli car. 2 members of the group held the driver, and the rest drove around looking for an Israeli soldier to exchange for Palestinian prisoners being held in Israel. They were spotted by Israeli security forces and forced to abandon the car and run back behind the border. He was arrested by the IDF after that incident. After 45 days of interrogation, he admitted to activities that were, in any case, known to all. I gave them what they already knew. Torture in the Israeli jail included sleep deprivation, being kept in a room the size of a closet, and being forced to stand all day with his hands tied to a pipe above his head. The ceiling was a grate that kept him exposed to the rain and sun with nothing to protect him from the cold of approaching winter. Mohammed said they did not beat him. There were a few slaps, nothing serious. They cursed and humiliated him, but he expected this as they were the enemy, and that is how the enemy is expected to behave. He was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. To the prosecution, this was too light, and they appealed. About 2 years after his arrest, however, before the appeal, he was released as part of the Oslo Accords. I got off easy. Upon his release, he was invited to join the Tanzim, the military arm of Fatah. Responsible for his village, he served as a bridge between local villages and the high-ranking leaders of the movement. However, he now faced a new and shocking reality. Far from the open, democratic, independent society he and others like him thought they were, hailing when they jubilantly welcomed Arafat, Massad found a new regime characterized by brutality and injustice. No criticism of the new Palestinian Authority was allowed, and debate was suppressed violently. For example, PA security forces stormed An Najah University campus in Nablus, savagely beat students who voiced opposition to Oslo and the PA. Criticism against the PA was openly expressed in the Massad family. They were upset with the corruption and suppression they saw. Mohammed's father would say they are riding on the backs of our people. Mohammed left the Tanzim and began working illegally in Israel in a number of jobs, including construction. One day he was asked to come into the police station in Jenin. Thinking nothing of it, he showed up a few days later. To his surprise, he was immediately arrested and thus began 23 days of torture and investigations. He was accused of collaboration with the Shin Bet, Israeli security agency. Each day of interrogations by the PA was harder than all 45 days together in Israel. They beat me with anything that came to hand. They insulted the honor of my sister and mothers with curses. I expected the Israeli enemy to humiliate me, but those I had helped bring into this land over the dead bodies of my friends, I did not expect them to humiliate me or my family. This was unbearable. Before the Israeli applies physical force, he gets permission and makes sure the prisoner can tolerate it, and it is according to the law. But here was a mafia running things. At the same time, he felt the pain of the other prisoners. As he sat in his cell between interrogations, he heard the cries of others being beaten. They would beg them to stop, and I felt sorry for them. When they beat me, I threatened them, told them I would make them pay for what they are doing to me. So I felt sorry for those who were weaker. They had no courage to tell the interrogator that he should interrogate himself first. I need to interrogate you, I would say. He understood that he was being used to show others in his community that protesting the PA makes them suspected traitors, collaborators. Finally, after 23 days, his interrogators had to admit that he was innocent. They apologized to me and to my family, but I will never forgive them. I was able to stand up to them because I am honest and strong. But others, after 2 slaps, will confess to anything just to avoid more beating. You just want to stop the pain. So if someone is told you killed 20 people, he will say he killed 22, just to end the torture. After this, they execute him and claim he confessed. In this environment, many gangs emerged who took advantage of the lawlessness. There were those who collected money claiming that it was for the purposes of freeing the land, but it was in fact protection money. Anyone who did not contribute was accused of being against the regime. When I understood that those I was ready to die for had brought corruption, alcohol, prostitution, and oppression of the people, it was as if I had been struck by lightning. My luck is that I had not killed anyone. I burned vehicles, but I take it as a sign that God loves me, that nobody died, no Jew and no Arab. While I was a member of the strongest terrorist group, nobody got hurt by me. I even stood in front of an IDF jeep and shot at it, but it was not written that I was to die that day. Mohammed continued to sneak across the border into Israel and work at various jobs. At one point, he married an Arab-Israeli woman and applied for citizenship. By this time, he was a contractor and hired illegals himself. One day, when waiting at the border for his workers to come across, he spotted a terrorist a few hundred meters from him. This terrorist assaulted a solitary soldier near the fence, knocking him down and wrestling to take his rifle from him. Mohammed rushed up and chased him away, saving the soldier's life and his weapon. For this, he was awarded a certificate of appreciation from the IDF. His pathway to Israeli citizenship was now a sure thing. Mohammad Massad now lives in Haifa, married for the 2nd time. He is involved in the lives of all his children and supports his first wife, who lives nearby. He is currently working towards a master's degree in Middle East Studies at the University of Haifa. For many years, he has been working behind the scenes to help develop the foundations of the democratic free society that he anticipated would arise when he was a Black Panther fighting Israel, and that he hopes will still arise. Recently, he was appointed as head of the Palestinian Workers' Organization, and is the voice of opposing their exploitation by the PA. He avails himself of the Israeli legal system in attempts to bring justice to the Palestinian people, and he anticipates the fall of the PA. When he was a Black Panther terrorist, Massad was fighting for truth and justice as he saw it. He is still doing that now. I feel obligated to my people who need me. If we free our people from fear, you will see something very different. This was written in 2020, so 4 years ago. And I think it's very powerful. And it shows that people really can change. And even people who are indoctrinated to really hate, they can change. And that's a really good thing. So much of, as he said, he finished there by saying, so much of what fuels a conflict is fear. Fear and lies and hatred about the Jews. So that's why on JTV, we're all about demystifying the conflict, demystifying Israel, demystifying the Jewish people, demystifying Judaism. You don't just fight darkness. You share light. And light can go even much further to getting rid of the darkness. I'm Ollie Annisfeld, and you're watching JTV.
Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.